Welcome to your deep dive, everybody. Wow, my energy is just totally up today. The coffee is flowing, and we are diving headfirst into something that, every single one of you listening has had to deal with at some point.
We really are.
Yeah.
And I actually want to jump straight into it by painting a picture for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
So imagine you are walking down the street on this beautiful, crisp, sunny morning. You are wearing a brand new, bright white shirt.
Oh, I love a new shirt.
Right. You feel fantastic, confident, totally ready to take on the world. But suddenly this total stranger walking past you just stops, points right at your chest, and casually says, "Hey, there is a small coffee stain on your collar."
Oh no, the worst.
It is. But think about your initial reaction. Do you instantly start screaming at this stranger, yelling, "How dare you insult my life choices? You don't know me."
I mean, I hope not.
Right. Or do you simply pull out your phone, look in the camera mirror, wipe off the stain, and say, "Oh, wow, thank you for letting me know"?
Well, I mean, I obviously wouldn't scream at them over a shirt, right? I don't want to walk into my office with a brown coffee stain broadcasting my clumsiness to the whole world. I would just wipe it off and, be glad they saved me the embarrassment. But hold on. If you are comparing a literal coffee stain on a piece of cotton to someone criticizing my actual work, I have to stop you right there.
Oh, here we go.
Because, if someone tells me I have a stain on my shirt, that is just a physical accident. It means literally nothing. But if someone attacks my work or my habits or the decisions I just poured my soul into, that feels like a major verbal war. Like, wait, why shouldn't I get mad when someone attacks my work? My work is personal. It represents me.
And that right there, that intense, super protective reaction is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today.
I feel attacked already.
Well, look. Most people do perfectly fine with literal shirt stains, right? They fix the spot and move on with their morning. But the second someone points out a flaw in their work or, their behavior or their creative ideas, they treat it like this literal life or death battle for survival.
Yeah, because it feels like one.
It does. We get incredibly defensive, our heart rate spikes, our palms sweat, and we want to fight back immediately.
Yeah.
So our mission for today is to master the art of handling criticism without melting down.
Okay, that sounds like a superpower, honestly.
It's the ultimate superpower. We are going to unpack exactly how to stop panicking when someone gives you feedback.
Right.
Because mastering this is essential for your personal success, your daily peace of mind, and just, building genuinely healthy relationships.
It just feels so completely impossible, though. Like, when someone criticizes a project I have spent weeks on, my immediate uncontrollable thought is that they are insulting who I am as a human being.
Yeah, it's visceral.
It really is. I literally feel my face get hot, my jaw clenches. I just want to launch into a massive defense of myself right that exact second. Are you telling me I shouldn't feel that way?
Not at all. I am telling you it is a completely natural biological reaction, but staying stuck in that reaction, that's what's holding you back. Overcoming that biological instinct is what it means to develop thick skin.
Thick skin, right?
Yeah. And we need to be very clear about this phrase. Developing thick skin does not mean you become this cold, unfeeling robot who genuinely does not care about anything or anyone.
Good, because I have a lot of feelings.
Exactly. We want you to keep your feelings.
Yeah.
But to have thick skin means to be emotionally mature, resilient, confident, and just not easily offended by negative remarks. Here's a perfect example. Working in a competitive environment forces you to develop thick skin very quickly.
I see the value in that. I really do. Being able to just brush things off without letting every single comment totally destroy my entire weekend sounds amazing.
It is incredibly freeing.
But if we are being completely honest, criticism is just profoundly painful. Why does it hurt so much? Like, why is it so physically uncomfortable to just hear someone say, "Hey, you did this wrong"?
Well, it hurts because of our human ego, paired with some very, very old evolutionary wiring.
Oh, blame it on evolution. Nice.
Always. But seriously, our ego simply hates being wrong. We all have this deep psychological need to believe that we are competent, smart, capable members of our community,
Right.
In ancient human history, if the tribe thought you were incompetent, they might kick you out, which literally meant you wouldn't survive in the wilderness.
So my brain thinks a bad slide deck means I'm going to get eaten by a tiger.
Pretty much. When someone points out that you made a mistake today, your primitive brain still perceives it as a massive threat to your survival. Your ego feels deeply, deeply threatened.
That makes so much sense.
Right. However, before we can even talk about the practical steps of how to handle that feedback in the moment, we need to completely shift the paradigm of how you view criticism overall. We need to look at how criticism secretly supercharges your life.
Okay, hold on. Supercharges my life. By making me feel terrible about myself? Please explain this to me, because right now, criticism just feels like a dark storm cloud hovering over my parade, specifically designed to make me doubt myself.
I get that. But let's start with the first massive benefit. Criticism exposes your blind spots.
Blind spots?
Yes. Every single human being on Earth has blind spots. These are behaviors or habits or even toxic traits that we literally cannot see in ourselves.
Speak for yourself.
We all have them. Maybe you talk over people in meetings, or maybe your emails read as extremely aggressive. But in your head, you think you are just being efficient and direct. A critic is actually providing you with a free mirror, pointing out exactly what you are missing.
A free mirror. Okay, I completely refuse to believe that. I spend all day with myself. I analyze my own actions. I meditate. I am deeply offended by the idea that I have these terrible, glaring flaws hanging out in the open that everyone else can clearly see, but I somehow magically can't. That sounds terrifying.
It is totally terrifying, but let me ask you a question. Have you ever listened to a recording of your own voice and thought, wait, is that really what I sound like?
Oh gosh, yes. I despise hearing my own voice on a recording. It sounds so much higher and, I don't know, stranger on tape than it does inside my own head.
Exactly. Your physical voice sounds different to you because the sound waves vibrate through your skull bones before reaching your ears. You literally cannot hear yourself the way the rest of the world hears you.
Ah, that's wild.
And the exact same psychological principle applies to your behavior. We all judge ourselves by our internal intentions. We know we mean well, but the rest of the world only judges us by our external actions.
Okay, give me a real-life example of this. How does someone just completely not see their own actions?
All right, imagine a manager who thinks of themselves as incredibly passionate. In their head, their intention is, I care deeply about this project, so I speak with intense, fast energy to motivate my team.
Sounds great in theory.
Right. But their actual physical behavior involves speaking super loudly, leaning aggressively over people's desks, and basically interrupting anyone who tries to speak.
Oh, yikes. So to the team, they don't look passionate at all. They just look like a massive bully.
Precisely. The team experiences them as highly intimidating. That manager has a massive blind spot, and they will never, ever know about it. They will go through their whole career wondering why people keep quitting their team unless someone gives them the harsh criticism they desperately need to hear. They need that free mirror.
Okay, that is infuriatingly logical. I don't like it, but I see your point. We judge ourselves by our good intentions while everyone else judges our messy actions. Fine. What is the second benefit to letting people criticize me?
The second benefit is that it dramatically boosts your relationships. Yeah, think about this from the reverse perspective. Nobody likes living or working with a highly fragile person. Have you ever had a coworker or even a family member who just explodes in defensive anger at even the most minor helpful suggestions?
Oh, yes. Unfortunately. I had a coworker a few years ago where if you even suggested fixing a simple typo on a shared document, he would take it as a personal insult.
Wow, over a typo.
Yes. He would get incredibly sarcastic, then go completely silent for like 3 days, just refusing to make eye contact in the hallway. We all had to walk on eggshells around him. It was completely exhausting and ruined the vibe of the entire office.
That is a perfect example. And let me ask you, did you trust that person? Did you feel close to them or respect them as a leader?
Not at all. I avoided them as much as humanly possible. I wouldn't even bring them new ideas because I just didn't want to deal with the inevitable emotional meltdown.
Exactly. So if you flip that around, being a person who is actively open to feedback makes you incredibly approachable. It makes you deeply trustworthy.
Because they don't have to walk on eggshells.
Right. People feel safe around you because they know they can be honest with you without you throwing a tantrum. It builds much deeper, healthier relationships when your partner or your team knows you can handle the truth without punishing them for speaking it.
Okay, I certainly do not want to be the fragile person that everyone is secretly avoiding and complaining about in the break room, but accepting criticism constantly still feels like so much pressure.
Actually, it's the opposite. That brings us to benefit number 3. Accepting criticism actually kills perfectionism.
Wait, really? How?
Because trying to be absolutely flawless all the time is a crushing weight. It creates so much daily stress because you are constantly terrified of making a mistake and being found out.
Oh, the imposter syndrome is real.
So real. But when you finally accept that you are human, that you are going to make mistakes, and you actively welcome feedback to fix them, you release that heavy burden. You create immense peace of mind because you realize you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to learn.
I do struggle heavily with perfectionism. If a project isn't 100% flawless, I view it as a complete and utter failure. The anxiety of trying to defend a flawed project is terrible. So leaning into the fact that it's flawed and just asking how to fix it, I mean, that does sound like a relief.
And that naturally leads to the fourth benefit, which is building profound mental flexibility. When you learn to accept feedback, you stop being stubbornly attached to your outdated ideas.
Which is important because things change so fast now.
Exactly. The world changes incredibly fast.
Yeah.
If you refuse criticism, you become like a rigid, dead tree branch that just snaps the second a strong wind blows. But if you take feedback, you become flexible. You bend, you adapt, and you survive whatever changes come your way in your career or your life.
Okay, I hear everything you're saying. Fixing blind spots, building trust so people don't avoid me, reducing the exhausting stress of perfectionism, becoming flexible. I mean, all of these sound wonderful for like perfect, highly evolved, Zen-like monks living on a mountain. But I am a normal, highly emotional, easily stressed person. When my boss criticizes me, I am not standing there thinking about mental flexibility. I am internally panicking. My heart is pounding. How is a normal person supposed to actually deal with the intense heat of the moment when the criticism hits without panicking?
That is the crucial question, and it is the entire core of our deep dive today. When that criticism hits and your body starts to panic, you need a system. So we're going to walk through 7 very specific real-world steps to master criticism.
Good, because I need steps.
These are practical tools you can use to stay entirely in control no matter who is standing in front of you.
I have my notebook ready, and I desperately need this. Tell me exactly what to do when my boss or my best friend suddenly looks at me and tells me I did something terribly wrong.
All right. Step 1 is what we call the 5-second pause, or the golden break.
The golden break.
Yeah. We touched on this biological reaction a moment ago. The exact second someone criticizes you, your brain's primitive alarm system perceives it as a dangerous physical attack. It instantly triggers a fight or flight response. Your amygdala actually hijacks your rational brain.
That makes so much sense. My heart literally races, my palms get clammy, my vision almost gets narrow, my brain is just screaming, attack them back, defend yourself, tell them why they are completely wrong right now. I want to crush their argument immediately.
And that is your primitive brain thinking a tiger is attacking you in the jungle. But it is not a tiger. It is just your colleague talking about a marketing spreadsheet.
Right. Not a tiger, just Dave from accounting.
Exactly.
Ah.
So before you open your mouth to defend yourself, before you send that angry email reply, you must force yourself to take a deep breath and pause for exactly 5 seconds.
5 seconds. When you are furious and your adrenaline is pumping, 5 seconds feels like an agonizing eternity.
It feels incredibly long, yes. But this simple forced pause is the only way to give your highly evolved logical frontal cortex time to wake back up and take control away from your primitive panicking brain. Let's practice this right now.
Oh boy. Role play time.
We are going to role play. I am going to give you some harsh criticism, and I want you to literally count out the 5 seconds and talk through your internal monologue while you fume. Ready?
Bring it on. Do your worst.
Your introduction to the big client meeting today was incredibly rambling, totally confusing, and honestly, you lost the attention of the entire room within the first 2 minutes. It was embarrassing.
Oh, wow. Okay. 1, my chest is so tight I absolutely hate you right now. 2, I worked until midnight on that introduction. 3, you weren't even paying attention. You were looking at your phone. 4, I just want to yell and explain exactly why I said what I said. 5, okay. Okay, I made it to 5.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you feel right now at second number 5 compared to how you feel at second number 1?
Well, I mean, I am absolutely still not happy about what you said. I'm still highly annoyed. But that blinding, explosive urge to just shout at you has dropped quite a bit. The adrenaline has cleared just enough that I feel like I can actually form a professional sentence instead of just streaming insults.
And that right there is the golden break. You stop the car before it drove off the cliff.
It actually works.
It really does. Now, while you are taking that forced 5-second pause and breathing, you must instantly move your brain to step 2. You are not your work.
You are not your work?
Yes. You must never, ever confuse your innate human value with your daily performance.
Okay, I am going to fight you on this one. My work is my identity. I pour my absolute heart, soul, and creative energy into what I do. I sacrifice my weekends for it. If someone says my work is bad, they are fundamentally saying that I am bad. How can you possibly ask me to separate the two?
Because you have to separate them, or you will be on an emotional roller coaster of misery for the rest of your life.
I mean, I already am.
Right, so let's fix that. Let's look at a scenario. Imagine your manager calls you into their office and says, the slide deck you built for the presentation today was very disorganized.
Ouch.
Sure, but your manager's not saying that you are a terrible, worthless human being. They're not saying you are unlovable to your family. They're not saying you are a fundamental failure at life. They are simply saying that a specific set of digital slides created on a specific Tuesday requires more structure.
But it feels like they're judging my intelligence. It feels like they are saying I am stupid.
They're not judging your intelligence. They are judging the slides. You are only feeling that way because you are dangerously tying your core human worth to your daily output. Think of it this way. If a world-class chef is baking a cake and they get distracted and accidentally put way too much salt in the batter.
Salty cake. Yum.
Right. Is that chef suddenly a worthless, horrible human being who deserves to be banished from society forever?
Well, no. They're just a person who made a very salty cake.
Exactly. You are the chef, not the cake. If your presentation is disorganized, you just baked a salty cake. Keep your core identity entirely protected and separate from your output. You are a highly valuable person who occasionally produces flawed work, just like every other human being on the planet.
Okay. I am the chef, not the cake. I will really try to internalize that. It is profoundly difficult, though, because I care so much of the quality of the cake.
And caring is an excellent trait, but you need emotional objectivity to survive. Which brings us directly to step 3. Treat criticism like neutral data.
Neutral data, like a robot.
More like a scientist. I want you to imagine a meteorologist on the television reporting the evening news. The meteorologist looks directly at the camera and says, it is going to rain very heavily today and your picnic will be ruined.
Okay, sad day for my picnic.
But do you get furiously angry at the meteorologist? Do you yell at the television and accuse them of hating you?
Well, no, obviously not. The meteorologist doesn't control the weather. I just sigh, go to the hall closet and grab my umbrella.
Exactly. You view the weather report as completely neutral data. You don't take it as a personal, targeted insult from the clouds. You need to train yourself to start viewing human feedback the exact same way.
It's hard to see a coworker's feedback as weather, though.
It takes practice. But you need to examine the criticism calmly, almost like a scientist in a lab analyzing a test result. If a coworker says this project plan is missing the budget data, that is just a weather report.
So I just grab my umbrella.
Exactly. Which in this case means simply saying, noted, and going to get the budget data to fix it.
You make it sound so incredibly simple, but how do you actually stop the emotional sting? Like, when you try your absolute best on something and you put in hours of invisible effort that nobody even saw, it feels literally impossible not to feel deeply, personally hurt when someone just casually points out everything wrong with it in 10 seconds. How do you just switch off your emotions?
Well, you don't switch off your emotions completely. You aren't a robot, like you said. But you actively train your brain not to let those comments ruin your internal peace. And this brings us to a very important phrase in English that captures this perfectly. You must learn not to take something to heart.
To take something to heart?
Yes. To take something to heart means to allow a comment or criticism to deeply hurt, upset, or affect you personally. For example, you might hear someone say, you shouldn't take every minor complaint to heart if you want to stay peaceful.
Okay, so by forcing myself to treat their words like neutral data, like a scientist looking at a chart or the weather report, it stops me from taking the criticism to heart. I am observing the feedback from a distance, rather than absorbing it like a child being scolded.
Precisely. You are putting up an invisible shield of data analysis.
Yeah.
Now, that is the first phase. Now that we have successfully cooled down your engine with those first 3 steps, pausing for 5 seconds, separating your identity from the cake, and viewing their words as neutral weather data, we need to talk about what happens when you actually open your mouth.
All right.
We need to cover how you actually engage with the person standing in front of you, giving the criticism.
Right, because my 5 seconds are up and I can't just stand there staring at them blankly like a statue. I actually have to speak.
Yes, you do. And that is step 4. Practice active listening, which practically means you need to drop the legal defense.
Wait, what do you mean by dropping the legal defense? Am I on trial?
In your own mind, you absolutely think you are. When someone is giving us criticism, human beings have a terrible, almost universal bad habit.
What is it?
While the other person is still speaking, we completely stop actually listening to the words coming out of their mouth. Instead, inside our own heads, we transform into a high-powered defense attorney.
No, I know where this is going.
We start rapidly building a defense speech. We start gathering historical evidence to prove our absolute innocence.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I am painfully guilty of this. I do this all the time. If my partner is telling me why they are upset with me about something around the house, I'm only listening to maybe the first 5 words.
And then what is your brain doing?
The rest of the time, my brain is frantically searching for excuses. I am thinking, well, I only forgot to do the dishes because you forgot to take out the trash last Tuesday. I am literally preparing my brilliant counterattack while their mouth is still moving.
Almost everyone does this. We think we are protecting ourselves, but it is toxic for your personal growth and highly destructive to your relationships. Because you are acting like a lawyer, you are completely missing the actual feedback they're trying to give you. You aren't hearing their pain or their perspective at all.
So how do I stop being a lawyer?
The actionable advice here is this. Fire your inner defense attorney. Stop gathering evidence of your innocence. Drop the lawyer act completely. Instead, become an investigator. Listen attentively to what they're actually saying, and when they finally finish speaking, ask clarifying questions.
What kind of clarifying questions? Like, why are you always so mean to me? Or why do you always notice my mistakes?
Absolutely not. Those are highly emotional, defensive questions disguised as curiosity. You need to ask neutral, scientific questions. For example, if your manager tells you that you are coming across as unapproachable to the junior staff, do not immediately argue and list all the times you smiled that week. Instead, ask, could you share a specific situation where I seemed unapproachable so I can understand the context better?
I am going to be totally honest, that feels incredibly vulnerable. It feels like I am just laying down my weapons, surrendering, and letting them attack me without fighting back.
It is not surrendering, it is gathering intelligence. You are investigating the data so you can actually understand the problem. However, you do have to be careful about who you are investigating. Which brings us to step 5, evaluate the source.
Yes. Okay, this is my biggest sticking point.
Right.
How am I supposed to know if someone is genuinely trying to help me grow, or if they're just being jealous, competitive, or genuinely mean? Sometimes people give criticism just to tear you down and make themselves feel more powerful.
Your fear is completely valid, and it highlights a crucial truth. Not all feedback is created equal. You do not have to blindly accept every single piece of criticism you receive in life.
Oh, thank goodness.
You must pause and ask yourself about the source of the feedback. Is this person an actual expert in this field? Are they a caring, invested friend who genuinely loves me and wants to see me succeed? Or are they just a random jealous hater on the internet? Or maybe a deeply bitter coworker who complains about literally everything?
I love this step. This means if I decide I don't like someone, I can just completely ignore everything they say, right?
Well, no, not exactly. You shouldn't ignore people just because their personality clashes with yours. Sometimes annoying people have great points. But here is a fantastic, foolproof rule of thumb you can use for the rest of your life. Do not take advice from someone you would not ask for help.
Oh, wow. Say that again.
Do not take advice from someone you would not ask for help. Think about it. If you would never go to that specific person for guidance, their criticism should hold very little weight in your mind.
That is a brilliant, clarifying rule. So if a random, anonymous stranger on social media insults my outfit or my creative project, I shouldn't lose a second of sleep over it because I would never in a million years ask them to dress me or mentor me.
Exactly. You evaluate their credibility, and if they have none, you brush it off. When an uninformed or mean-spirited person offers a rude opinion, you need to learn to take it with a grain of salt.
Don't phrase salt, guys.
Yes. To take it with a grain of salt means to view information with skepticism and not accept it as completely true or important. For instance, you could say, when someone who barely knows you gives advice, it is best to take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, so I am filtering the sources, discarding the irrelevant ones. I am asking clarifying questions to the valid ones. But here's a huge problem.
What is it?
What if the source is someone I absolutely do need to listen to, like my boss or a key client, but their delivery is just terrible? Some people are so incredibly rude when they give feedback. They yell, they are sarcastic, they roll their eyes. Why should I listen to their feedback if they are acting like a complete jerk?
That is a very common and highly frustrating situation. And it brings us to step 6. Find the 5% gold in the dirt.
The 5% gold in the dirt? What does that mean?
It means that even if someone delivers their feedback with a terrible, rude, entirely negative attitude, you have to force yourself to look past the delivery mechanism. You have to ask yourself a very hard, humbling question. Is there even a tiny 5% nugget of truth hidden in what they just yelled at me?
But if they are being rude and sarcastic, they're just throwing toxic dirt at me. I don't want to dig through their toxic dirt. I want to tell them to learn some manners.
I know it is deeply unpleasant, but I want you to think of yourself as a gold miner in the 1800s. The miner doesn't get furious at the dirt. They don't yell at the mud for being dirty.
I mean, they might if it's been a long day.
Fair. But usually, they just calmly wash the dirt away in the river because they know there might be a valuable piece of gold hidden inside it. So if your boss angrily says, "You are always late, you never prepare for these meetings," this whole thing is a total disaster.
Yeah.
The delivery is terrible. It's emotional, unprofessional, and rude.
Extremely rude.
But if you wash away the anger, is there a 5% nugget of truth? Were you actually 5 minutes late? Did you forget to print one key document?
Ugh. I hate admitting this. It literally physically pains me. But usually, yes, even when someone is being a complete jerk and exaggerating, there is usually a tiny grain of actual truth at the very center of their complaint.
Exactly. Your mission is to extract that tiny 5% nugget of gold so you can use it to improve your own life and then confidently, mentally throw away the rest of their emotional garbage. Do not let their bad attitude prevent you from getting the gold that will make you better.
Man, it really hurts my ego to admit that a deeply rude person might actually be right about something. In those moments, I just want them to be 100% wrong so I can feel morally superior and play the victim.
Of course you do. That is your ego desperately trying to protect itself again. But true, mature growth requires setting that ego aside. This is another essential concept for anyone who wants to succeed. Learning to swallow one's pride is essential.
Swallow my pride.
Yes. To swallow one's pride means to accept a humbling situation, admit a mistake, or set aside your ego for the sake of progress. So you would say, sometimes you have to swallow one's pride and admit that your coworker had a better idea.
Swallow my pride, get the 5% gold, throw away the dirt. Okay, I'm following this entire process. Let's review. I have paused for 5 agonizing seconds. I remembered I am the chef, not the kick. I fired my inner defense attorney and asked clarifying questions. I dug for the gold. But how do I actually end the physical conversation? I can't just stand there in their office forever, nodding like a bobblehead.
This is step 7, and you are going to love this because it is the easiest and most powerful step of all. You buy time with a simple thank you.
A thank you.
Yes. You do not have to agree with their feedback immediately. You do not have to confess to all your sins and apologize profusely. You simply look them in the eye and say, "Thanks for sharing your perspective. I'll think about it."
Wait, really? Just thanks for sharing your perspective. I'll think about it. Isn't nodding and thanking a critic just a sign of weakness? It feels like I am bowing down to them and letting them win the argument without a fight.
Absolutely not. It is the exact opposite of weak. It is the ultimate show of unshakable strength, confidence, and emotional control. Think about the psychology of a critic. When someone criticizes you, especially if they are a bit rude, they are usually expecting a fight.
True, they want drama.
Exactly. They expect you to get upset, to stammer, to argue back. When you calmly look them in the eye and simply say, "Thank you, I will think about that," you completely disarm them. You prove that your emotions cannot be easily provoked. You show immense, intimidating maturity. And most importantly, it buys you the peace and time you need to go evaluate their comments in private when your adrenaline has faded.
Wow. That is a total power move. I am not agreeing that they are right, but I'm also not disagreeing and starting a war. I am just acknowledging the data receipt and ending the conversation on my terms. I absolutely love that. Thanks for sharing. I'll think about it.
It works magically in almost every professional and personal situation. It diffuses the tension instantly and leaves you looking like the most mature person in the room.
I feel like I have a real shield now, but I actually have a brand new worry. If I go home and I look at all this feedback I'm supposedly collecting from all these different people, and I try to fix all my blind spots and extract all this gold, won't I just slowly become a chronic people pleaser? I am terrified that if I accept all this criticism, I will just constantly change my personality and my work to make random people happy, and eventually I will completely lose who I really am.
That is a very real, very dangerous trap. And it happens to a lot of well-meaning people when they first start becoming open to feedback. They swing entirely too far the other way and try to mold themselves to please everyone around them.
Yes, that's exactly what I don't want.
And that is exactly why we have our final crucial section today, growth versus people-pleasing. We call this the ultimate filter.
The ultimate filter. I definitely need this. How do I know if I'm engaging in genuine, mature growth or if I am just acting like a mindless puppet dancing to other people's opinions?
Before you make any actual lasting changes to your behavior or your work based on the criticism you received, you must run that feedback through 3 golden filter questions. Let's discuss each one in deep detail, because this is where the real magic happens.
Okay, I'm ready.
Filter question number 1. Is this change helping my personal growth and my long-term goals?
Give me a real scenario of how I use that first question in the wild.
Let's say you work in marketing, and a senior colleague criticizes your public speaking style during pitches. They tell you that you speak way too fast, use too many chaotic hand gestures, and it makes you look nervous.
Which I probably do.
A lot of people do. So you take that feedback home and you ask yourself the filter question. If I put in the hard work to slow down my speech and control my hands, does that help my personal long-term goal of becoming a respected marketing director?
Yeah, it definitely would.
Exactly. If the answer is yes, because clear, confident communication is objectively good for your career trajectory, then it is a healthy change. You are growing for yourself.
Okay, and what if someone criticizes something totally irrelevant? Like a coworker says, your haircut looks really silly, or you laugh too loud in the break room.
You run it right through the exact same filter. Does changing your haircut or suppressing your natural laugh help your personal growth and your long-term goal of being a marketing director?
No, probably not at all.
Right. It just makes that one grumpy coworker more comfortable, so you confidently discard the feedback as irrelevant dirt.
I really like that. It puts me back in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So what is filter question number 2?
Filter question number 2. Does this change align with my personal core values and my authentic self?
Core values and authentic self. That sounds a bit deep and philosophical. How do I practically apply that on a Tuesday afternoon at the office?
Let's imagine you work in high-stakes sales, and a very successful older salesperson pulls you aside after a meeting and says, listen, you are way too honest with the customers. You are pointing out the limitations of our software. You need to hide the flaws of the product if you want to close bigger deals. Stop being so transparent. It's making you look weak.
Oh, I would absolutely hate that advice. I deeply value honesty and integrity.
Exactly. If you change your behavior to match their criticism, you are directly violating your personal core values. Even if doing what they say makes them happy, and even if it actually increases your commission checks in the short term, you will ultimately feel terrible about yourself. You will burn out because you are out of alignment.
So the filter saves me here.
Yes, you use the filter. You ask, does hiding the truth align with my authentic self? The answer is no. Therefore, you firmly reject the criticism no matter how successful the critic is.
This filter framework is amazing. It really protects you from blindly following bad or even unethical advice. What is the third and final filter question?
Filter question number 3. Would I still make this change, even if absolutely nobody else ever noticed it?
Ooh, that is a tricky one. Even if nobody else noticed, why would I change if nobody is going to give me credit for it?
And that reaction right there is why this question is so vital. This is the ultimate foolproof test of internal motivation versus external people-pleasing. Let's look at a personal life example.
Okay.
Say your friend visits your apartment, criticizes your messy bedroom, and calls you a slob. If you spend 3 hours cleaning it just so they will praise you the next time they visit, you are just people-pleasing. You are acting for their applause.
Right.
But if you start cleaning it because you realize you genuinely feel more relaxed, focused, and happy in a clean space, and you would actively keep it clean even if no human being ever visited your house again, then you are experiencing genuine, mature growth.
That makes the dividing line so incredibly clear. If the answer to all 3 filter questions is yes, it helps my long-term goals, it perfectly matches my personal values, and I would do it just for my own benefit, even in a vacuum, then it is genuine, mature growth. But if the answer to any of those is no, I am just falling into the exhausting trap of trying to please everyone else.
Precisely. You step back and use these 3 questions to evaluate the entire landscape.
Yeah.
So you don't get bogged down by the tiny, annoying details and temporary complaints of the people around you. You have to be able to see the bigger picture.
To see the bigger picture.
Yes. To see the bigger picture means to look at the situation as a whole and understand its long-term importance, rather than getting bogged down by tiny details. For example, focusing on your long-term goals helps you see the bigger picture instead of overreacting to criticism.
This entire framework completely changes how I view the concept of criticism. It is not an attack on my soul. It is just neutral weather data. I can hit the brakes and pause for 5 seconds. I can filter out the bad, jealous sources. I can wash away the dirt to find the tiny piece of gold. I can look them in the eye and say, thank you, I'll think about it. And then I can take it home and use the 3 golden filter questions to decide if I actually want to implement the change. I don't have to be a defensive hostage to my emotions anymore.
You really don't. You can completely stop fearing feedback. You can embrace the tough lessons and literally use every single critique as free fuel for your own unstoppable growth. That is true emotional armor for the mind.
This has been absolutely incredible. I feel like I need to listen to this entire conversation again the very next time I get a "we need to talk" email from my boss.
Well, before we officially wrap up our time together, we need to do a quick review of the 5 crucial phrases we discussed today to make sure they really stick with you in your daily life.
Yes, let's do our crucial review section. I want to make sure I remember exactly how to use all of these idioms. We will go through them one by one.
Excellent. The first phrase we covered is to take something to heart. This means letting negative remarks deeply hurt your feelings, upset you, or completely ruin your mood. The example was, you shouldn't take every minor complaint to heart if you want to stay peaceful.
Got it. And phrase number 2 is to have thick skin. This means being mentally strong, emotionally mature, and resilient against harsh feedback or insults. Working in a competitive environment forces you to develop thick skin very quickly.
Spot on. Phrase number 3, to swallow one's pride. This means setting aside your ego to humbly admit a mistake or accept useful advice from someone else. Sometimes you have to swallow one's pride and admit that your coworker had a better idea.
I'm getting better at that one. Okay, phrase number 4, to take it with a grain of salt. This means listening to advice or opinions with a healthy dose of doubt and skepticism, especially when it comes from uninformed or jealous people. When someone who barely knows you gives advice, it is best to take it with a grain of salt.
And our final phrase number 5, to see the bigger picture. This means looking at your long-term personal growth and ultimate goals instead of focusing on minor, temporary complaints. Focusing on your long-term goals helps you see the bigger picture instead of overreacting to criticism.
Perfect. I'm going to be practicing those phrases and that 5-second pause all week long. Now, before we go, we have a very important question for you listening. How do you usually react when someone criticizes your work? Do you get defensive immediately, or do you have thick skin? Let us know in the comments below.
We truly cannot wait to read your answers and see how you handle these situations. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today. We spend so much time complaining about how much criticism hurts. But imagine for just a moment, what would happen if we lived in a society entirely devoid of criticism? If no one ever told anyone else they were wrong, how quickly would art, science, and human progress completely collapse? Criticism isn't a punishment. It is the fundamental engine of human evolution. Remember that the next time someone points out a coffee stain or a flaw in your biggest project, just take a deep breath, pause for 5 seconds, and find the gold.
What a fantastic way to look at it. Thank you so much for joining your deep dive today. We will see you next time. Stay strong, keep growing, and have an absolutely amazing week.